the new HDzero flight controller.
You look at this box and like, oh, it's just another video transmitter from HDzero, but you open it up and it has a flight controller from HDzero. And because it's HDzero flight controller, of course, we're going to be testing it with DJI O4.
Levi, don't you fucking dare!
This is not your typical flight controller because it has Express LRS ELRS diversity receiver built in. It has two versions, MPU gyroscope or ICM. The price is very different, so of course we're going to be looking at the black boxes to see which one is better. Also, we're going to be doing ELRS range testing on this flight controller. And let's see if there's anything to bitch about. Don't worry. There is always room for bitching.
No!
Because I didn't buy these flight controllers. First, let's consult with my integrity expert.
Ha! Ivan sold his ass!
ICM version is promised to be $65. MPU version is $85. All other features between them are identical. Full Betaflight support, H7 chip, crazy 4 amps 5-volt regulator. I think they did it for LEDs, and with that you can power the whole Christmas tree. Don't do it, that's exaggeration. But this big regulator makes a perfect flight controller for projects, for example, like this, because you can power your servos directly from the flight controller. If you want to know what's that, and even if you don't, this is the cool little cheap FPV plane running Betaflight that I just made a video about, well, a month ago, link in the description. It also has 3 amp 9-volt regulator to power all your HD video transmitters. It even has a plug for them. And this plug is plug and play with DJI. Plug and play plug. Unfortunately, it's not plug and play with every HDzero video transmitter, but the new batches of HDzero video transmitters will have a compatible plug. You just gotta be checking this diagram that comes in the box with the flight controller. But the worst case scenario, you just repin the harness with tweezers. And the same goes for ESC connection, just double check that. But it's very nice of HDzero to put this paper diagram in the box with a flight controller.
Now that's nice.
Because it's always annoying to Google pinouts. A warning that you should not use this flight controller with analog because it doesn't have analog OSD chip. Also, it does not have barometer, so if you want to use altitude hold or position hold, you gotta use GPS. John recording video about the same flight controller. What an asshole. HDzero used Betaflight recommended pins order for the plugs, so if you want to blame someone, you can blame Australia. Or call.
No.
And this flight controller supports power up to 8S, which is pretty nice. But the main feature is Express LRS diversity receiver on board. You can see these little UFL connectors. These are for antennas, and they are also coming in the box. So your radio can talk to the flight controller without you soldering any extra crap to it. I think the only competitor in the market for that is Orca with integrated Ghost diversity receiver, but it's a little bit more expensive, which is F7, that is not a big deal. I think Orca has a little too many plugs, which is a disadvantage to me. It doesn't support 8S, only 6S. The regulators are a little smaller, only 2 amps. But Orca has barometer. And Orca is much more expensive if we compare it with ICM HDzero, because that one is only $65. Well, only. If we compare prices with something like Foxeer H7 with 8S support, we'd better to just not. And none of them have integrated Express LRS, which here, by the way, is a UART receiver, which will have a full support from Express LRS for all future versions, hopefully. We can also compare with something, for example, like Kiss Ultra V2 Mini, which is also 20x20. I think they dropped the price, which is nice. It's still way more expensive than HDzero FC. Of course, this one doesn't have any receiver. It also supports 8S, only 2 amp regulator instead of 4 amp. It has barometer, also H7 chip. It does support analog OSD, but no 9-volt regulator to power HD VTXs. And it has weird 3mm holes, so no gamuts for installation. Of course, lots of people say that for this flight controller you're paying for the Kiss Ultra software, which they say is a big advantage. But there is a little chance that they might be
Full of shit!
If you want to see a full video of me talking about Kiss Ultra, there's a link in the description. So I think it's safe to say that with this flight controller for ICM version, you're at least saving $20 for Express LRS receiver. Just look at this beauty. No soldering. Now welcome to the bitching theater of the shit pilot destruction. If you look at the user manual for this flight controller, you can see that they recommend to mount it with the antennas up. It kind of makes sense because if you fuck them up, it's easy to replace. But that means that all your plugs are facing down, but it might not be good depending on your ESC, on its size and how you mount it. For example, here they mounted ESC upside down so that this ESC plug facing down. I don't really like doing that, but even still your power wires to ESC will still be facing up. And depending on your ESC size, these wires will be bumping into flight controller VTX plug. This ESC on the picture is quite big, not a big deal. But I'm running Voltara Mini 50 amp on this quad. It's quite cheap, by the way. This ESC is relatively small, and you can see that the power wires, when you solder them here, they will be bumping into DJI plug or HDzero plug. Another important thing I have to mention is that with this mounting, your USB plug is dangerously close to the motor pads on the ESC. You can accidentally short them, for example, when you plug in your USB cable, or when you crash hard enough and your stack does this. And you can ask Johnny 5 about what happens next. So if you mount your flight controller like this, I would recommend to at least cover motor pads with some electrical tape. Now, of course, you can mount this flight controller with this side up, but then your UFL plugs will be at the bottom. And this plug in particular comes dangerously close to ESC power soldering joints. And the other one comes kind of close to motor pads. This is kind of a big distance, but you gotta think about what if you rip your antenna off during the crash, where this little metal ball will go.
Butthole?
So it's kind of annoying that this side is very flat except UFL plugs. So I mounted like this and covered the ESC power pads with a bit of electrical tape, just to protect them from touching UFL. Of course, none of this is important for freestyle builds where you can build a 1 mile tall stack, but still it'd be much better if UFL plugs were on the same side with all the other plugs. Also, this flight controller doesn't have drops of glue to support your plugs, so it's a little easier to rip them off. But Mr. Carl from HDzero promised that the next batch will have that. But for now, if you rip these plugs off, you'll find that underneath them there are nice soldering pads to replace your plugs. But sometimes, unfortunately, when you rip the plug, it also rips off these little pins. And you can see that these extra pads are connected to that. So if you do that, this trace will be kind of useless. And this flight controller is not conformal coated, so I had to do it myself. But again, Mr. Carl promised that the next batch will be conformal coated. I like to think that that's because he listens to me.
No?
This flight controller gives all the UARTs you need. I think it's like 4 or 5. It supports enormous amount of LEDs. Just look at that. You can even solder your own receiver if you don't like the internal one. And if you're wondering, if you damage your receiver antenna on this flight controller, will it burn your receiver? And here's an answer. In short terms, there is a very low risk. Now let's check the range of this receiver. Is it even good? I use Radiomaster Boxer with XpressRS built in with one antenna set to 25 milliwatts only. I will be testing it around this patch of forest, just like that, and then coming back here. The furthest point through the forest, through the metal building and wooden building is around 180 meters. 25 milliwatts first with a standard antenna mounting. One antenna is like here and another antenna is on the arm. And I'm running 250 Hz update rate. It's still plenty fast, but a little bit on the safer side. So this quad doesn't have GPS rescue, so I'll have to send Johnny 5 there. It's a proper range test. This is my LQ and RSSI. Here I'm still line of sight, going behind the forest. LQ still stays 100, RSSI goes up a little bit. 100 is a little dangerous for RSSI, but it's still holding strong. LQ drops to 80, I think I'm behind the metal building, but goes back to 90. And I made it all the way through, no problem on this setup. The next test is 2 homemade whip antennas. I made them 29 millimeters the naked part and put heat shrink on top. That's why it's 29 millimeters, not 31. But honestly, I have no clue about this RF bullshit. Maybe I should have made them 31 millimeters. So 2 whip antennas that are not approved by ELRS and not approved by HDzero. You can see LQ started dropping a little earlier. RSSI goes above 100, that's pretty dangerous. LQ goes lower. LQ goes to 12, I think it even goes to 8. Yeah, you could see it flashed 8 a little bit, that's very low. But it also means that in this case, ELRS is doing it ELRS things with recovering signal from the noise floor or whatever magic they're doing, and it works. Because you can see I'm still making it through. I wouldn't say no problems, but I made it through on 25 milliwatts. And one more test with one antenna, just like that. That should show the advantage of the true diversity receiver when you have one antenna completely fucked up, and if your second antenna is still good, then you're good. So one whip antenna, 25 milliwatts around the forest, 180 meters through the forest. You can see LQ is way lower than before, RSSI above 100. LQ drops to 8. We got way more RX loss signals, but I'm still making it through. Honestly, that's very impressive. Just shows that the receiver on this flight controller is good. Imagine what it can do on 250 milliwatts or like a 1 watt. That'd be just crazy. I guess, good job, ELRS developers. By the way, if you're curious what the fuck I'm flying, this is Openracer frame with DJI O4 canopy that I just finished the design. This is a completely open source frame. All the files are available on GitHub, or you can buy it from 533 or CNC Madness, print yourself a canopy and really enjoy it, just like I do. 350 grams all built up just like that. Very light in comparison to other freestyle quads. Of course, it's very good for freestyle and racing if you're allowed with DJI. And if not, there are canopies for HDzero analog, different shapes, even for DJI O3 and even for old DJI Vista. It's very durable, especially for DJI O3 and O4 because they are very expensive. You can see I'm kissing the trees on a daily basis, just like a normal, appropriate shit pilot, and it's still in one piece with working DJI. The link to the video about this frame is in the description. But let's go back to HDzero HALO flight controller. Which version, ICM or MPU? ICM $65, MPU $85, $20 difference. Is it worth it? First, I installed ICM flight controller, then I installed MPU on the same quad, and then I installed back ICM, just to see if I can feel the difference. What a surprise, I didn't feel any difference. I didn't feel shit. They both fly exceptionally well. But feelings are well-known bullshit. At least I'm not dumb enough to blindly believe in them.
Get the shovel.
So, black box. To the rescue. These are two similar flights, raw gyroscope data. The red one is ICM and orange one is MPU. They are very close, alright? You can see that ICM is a little bit more noisy after 500 Hz, but especially after 500 Hz, it doesn't fucking matter. Of course, out of all the people, there will be at least one hyper, and scientifically, there is one hyper, and he's hyper. That will be like,
I can feel the difference. MPU is so much better.
You're full of shit!
it's all jokes. Love you, Hyper. Accept. Camera position. So I think on this flight controller, and this is important, on this flight controller, the ICM is just as good as MPU. So I'll be for sure buying ICM version because it's $20 cheaper and because Carl doesn't want to send me more of these. But at the end of the day, it's up to you, shit pilots. The links to these flight controllers to the 583 store are down there. Please like, subscribe, check my Patreon, the link in the description, and see you in the next video, if I'm not lazy.
Yeah, make all the demons quiet. Yeah, we were built to thrive. Yeah, I think that we've all had enough. What keeps you up at night? Yeah, make all the demons quiet. Yeah, we were built to thrive. Yeah, I think that we've all had enough. Yeah, I think that we've all had enough. Sick of dealing with the old plan. They know that we're calling it wrong. You got me like, oh yeah, I think that we've all had enough. It's too late to try to go contain it. A generation fueled by creation. We live lives on a small screen nation. We control the airwaves, no negotiation. I refuse to think we need saving. Something good will come from creation. And when we think that the world is too anxious, we'll adapt, evolve, survive and save it. What keeps you up at night? Yeah, make all the demons quiet. Yeah, we were built to thrive. Yeah, I think that we've all had enough. What keeps you up at night? Yeah, make all the demons quiet. Yeah, we were built to thrive. Yeah, I think that we've all had enough. Yeah, I think that we've all had enough.
Alright, John, you ready to record a little sketch for me?
Yeah.
You got a second pants under these pants?
No. No, what does that mean?